The revolution will not be televised.
Hey guys, it's Dan from Clutch Business Blueprint, and I have a very special treat for you guys today. I have one of Lethbridge's own social media influencers, Mike McCready. Now, if you've been in a cave, I guess, for the last 4 years, and you don't know anything about social media, you're going to go to mikemccready.ca, right?
Yep.
And you're going to read his blog, and then after that, you're going to know everything about social media. We're pretty close. He's really good. And I am. This is really cool. I read his stuff. He knows. It's amazing. So I'm really happy to be here. So, Mike, what was your first experience with social media?
Well, I think my very first one actually predates what we know as social media today. I remember setting up a bulletin board system back in the 90s, and that's where you could connect with other computers and interact with people. It wasn't like Twitter and Facebook, but that was my very first experience. And then kind of looking at what we have today, I remember my very first blog post was in 2007, and I remember writing it and thinking, well, maybe I should get on this blog platform. And even though I had been around for a while, that was my very first experience. And like a lot of people who blog, I got discouraged because I wasn't seeing traffic and I wasn't seeing comments, and I actually gave it up for a little while and then started later, and I've been going pretty hardcore since then.
Off topic, you do go hardcore. You post like at a crazy rate, and it's all good stuff. So I guess as a side note, what is one writing tip that you give anybody that's blogging that wants to put out content and keep it good, I guess?
I think the really most important thing is to have a niche audience. Don't try to write about everything and anything. So I really strictly focus on social media and marketing. I don't try and bring in business tactics, sales advice, because that's not my area. And I think so having a blog that's really niche focused will get you a longer traction than trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's really good advice. Now, you've written a lot of great articles. My personal favorite is, are you a social media expert? And this is a tough question, but what's, in your opinion, your favorite article, the best article you've written?
Well, I don't know if it's my best one, but my favorite one, I'd have to say, was the one that's brought in my most traffic to my site when looking at the analytics. And I wrote an article a few years ago called Multiple Facebook Pages, and it really analyzes the pros and cons of having more than one Facebook page for an organization. So if you're a larger group and you have different audiences, having multiple pages to speak to those different audiences, big brands like Coca-Cola and IBM and Ford do that. And so I look at that and analyze the pros and cons. And in the last couple of years, it's brought in about 1,800 visits to that one particular article. So it's brought in the most traffic. I don't know if it's my most well-written article, but it's done really well in the search engines.
That's a lot of people looking at one content.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's where I guess you get people linked and hooked on what's next, right? And I guess your content, that's what keeps them coming back. Now, in your opinion, how has social media changed from a business perspective in 2010 to what it is now? What's been the big change in those 2 years?
I think the biggest change is that more, I guess you would say, executive level individuals are starting to understand and appreciate and expect social media. So I think that is really making social media more of a viable business tool. And I think some of the strategies that businesses that are effective on social media, some of those strategies that they're using are more focused, and there is a bit more strategy. I think in 2010, people were just trying to be on Facebook and on Twitter, and they weren't thinking about what they were trying to achieve.
So, in June of 2011, I got an invite to a website called Pinterest, which some of you may or may not have heard of. And now, in 2012, it's the third biggest social media platform. In your opinion, what do you see as the next Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook?
Sure, I think there's a bit of danger in kind of looking at what the next kind of big tool is, because a lot of businesses will look for those next big tools and invest a lot of time and resources in that when maybe they don't have their current kind of strategies and activities really rock solid. So some of the things that I would suggest is that the companies that are using social media now, that they really get those tools that they have available to them, like Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, and really get those strategies figured out well. But if you want to look at some of the trends that I do see through Facebook primarily, something that Jeremiah Ouyang, who's a social media strategist I follow quite religiously, talks about. There's different phases of social media, and one of those phases is social colonization. And so that basically means if you've been on Facebook and you've seen with the timeline, people will read different articles, and it's using a timeline app or a social app. And I think that's some of the trends that we'll see happening, is that our activities online will become more social in the sense that it's not just, oh, we're sharing something on Twitter, but what we do online gets shared with our friends. And Google also is trying to do that through Google Plus and the social search, where you can actually influence search results with your friends through Google Plus and through plus oneing and stuff like that. So I think it's that social colonization is a trend that we'll see happening more often, and it really isn't specific to a certain tool, but to a consumer habits.
That's a really good answer. Now, I guess my last question: what do you have to plug? Like, what are you working on right now?
Well, as some of you might know who do know me, I am the social media strategist at Lethbridge College, and we've been working on developing training materials and opportunities for small businesses and individuals, a lot of your potential clients, people that you work with, to help them to become better educated with social media, some of the strategies that you can use, risks to avoid, things like that. Right now we do have a series of courses that we'll be offering again in the fall, social media strategy, Facebook for business, YouTube for business, and Twitter for business. But we'll also be looking at adding additional courses like how to use Google AdWords and how to use tools like Google Analytics and mobile marketing. And
Mike's going to make sure that I have all the information, and I'll put it on my website and on my Facebook, and anybody that's interested in taking a part in those courses will have the information, as well as Mike's contact too, because you should be following him on Twitter. You should be checking out his website. If you're serious about social media, you need to follow this guy. He knows his stuff. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
And yeah, stay tuned for next time.
See you guys.
The revolution will not be televised.